Okay, good morning, folks. I am going to get right into it. I have been watching the Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip, this new one, the Roni Legacy. It kind of got sprung on us. It was like I was getting prepared and prepared and prepared, and there was so much talk around what they were going to do because, as we all kind of know, I think the Brandy and Caroline Manzo season was supposed to come out really before this, and everything kind of got worked around. I honestly probably don't think that that season will ever see the light of day, but I don't really care. Um, while I have feelings, lots of feelings on probably what all went down with regards to any of that, I can't really totally speak on it without running the risk of kind of reneging all those statements later if it does ever come out, if we do ever see those episodes. So I'll just leave it at the overall feeling that I have, which is that Brandy was probably Brandy and Carolyn Manzo was probably Carolyn Manzo, and that's really kind of the end of the story. And somewhere in the middle with production and editing and both of those women, being like very opinionated and one's prone to strong feelings about certain things, even things that I've not understood in the past, probably wouldn't understand this necessarily. I just think that Brandy Glanville really likes being provocative, and she does have a tendency to pick out the wrong ones to be provocative with. But she does that on purpose. She will find the stick in the mud in the group and try and make them not so. And that's absolutely what Caroline Manzo has always been. And she's just not the one, really, to poke and prod and fuck with. And she probably made a fucking mountain out of a molehill because that's all Caroline Manzo has ever done on any show that she's ever been on. She's taken something really small and inflated it past the point of no return. And she's really stubborn, like really stubborn. And so, no, I don't like Brandy, and I don't think Caroline Manzo was ever made for reality TV. I don't know why she keeps coming back and then kind of like biting the hand that feeds her after the fact. Didn't even mean to get in a tangent about that, guys. Really, to be honest. I just think that maybe, like I said, we'll never see those episodes, so I'll never have a reason really to talk about this again. Moving on to the current Ultimate Girls Trip. I was like 10 minutes into it, and the first episode, and I just remember thinking, like, I'm going to want to binge watch this more than anything else on that's current in terms of the housewives stuff. There is something about the combo of these old school Roni women that just, it's like lightning in a bottle. It cannot be replaced. All this other Roni reboot stuff, that's not to say anything about that, because I think that's fantastic too. I just think it's a totally different show. And I think they need to have Roni Legacy as its own show. Now, whether that takes the form of like more of a trip format, like Ultimate Girls Trip has been, where they're not literally in New York, maybe you might see a little bit of that here and there, but generally speaking, it's a continuation of the New York cast going on these nice vacations and being in these nice homes. I think that's probably what I would rather see. Like, I could watch this cast of Ultimate Girls Trip, this current cast, over and over and over and over and over again. And that's not even to say that I didn't love the other casts. I think they've mixed up these casts for these Ultimate Girls Trips really well, the combination. But when I tell you the glee that I have over seeing Luann and Sonia and Ramona together on my screen, and kind of getting back in touch with Kelly Ben Simone, who's always been, for better or worse, like her or hate her, freaking riveting TV. And then you have that counterbalance with Kristen Takeman, who's always been kind of like the person saying the things that I'm saying inside. Even when she was on Roni in her cast in the past, I would agree with her a lot, I wouldn't always agree with her. I wouldn't always like what she did in certain circumstances. But for one, I admire the balls of her to come back. I don't think if the situation reversed, I would be so prone to do that. I think there's a lot of questions. Now, whether her absolute idiot of a husband would legitimately cheat on somebody as freaking stunning as Kristen Takeman, I don't know. There's always that thing. Show me a girl, the prettiest girl that you see out there, and I'll show you the guy that's tired of fucking her. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't really know if I care. It was so long ago. If they're cool with it, I'm cool with it. I do like the story, of, look, that's not my truth. We as a couple have worked out this really traumatic, trying event together, and we're still together. So if we're good with it, y'all need to be good with it. And you could say that about so many different things that are going on in the housewives world right now. About Robin and the stuff with Juan. I mean, truly, there comes a point where if the housewife or the person in your life is okay with their circumstances and is okay with the trajectory, is telling you that, even if you don't even believe that they're okay, you kind of just have to be good with it. You can't force somebody down any path, period, really. So the fact that she's back, I'm here for it. So far, she's literally saying all of the things. And I'm coming to you after having watched the large majority of what's out there for Girls Trip. So I'm kind of going to recap it all that I've seen up to this point in one blow. So I am coming from a place of somebody who's seen most of the 3 episodes that are out already. I think there's about 20 minutes in the 3rd episode that I have not watched yet. They kind of blend together. It's kind of like one long episode if you do watch them in a binge fashion like I did. But literally, I feel at peace. I don't know whether it's the St. Bart's vacation destination that they are showing on this show or what. If that's just, kind of giving me that extra layer of peace. But I really think I feel at peace with these women. Screaming and yelling and, having little snarky things to say. And they're just like fun ants, and I am so here for it. But really, in particular, I am happy to see Kristen and Kelly on my damn TV. And I'm happy when they get into it about Bethany, because I think that's just, it's perspective, y'all, of what they've been thinking about all the shit that's been going on in real time. And you'll see a scene where Sonia talks about where her relationship stands with Bethany and what the other girls have to say about it. And it's just real good to watch. So yeah, starting off good. Lots of references, even early on, for Scary Island. So I feel like that's just going to be a theme that's going to run its course the whole time. And Kelly is showing signs of being that same Kelly. She does fixate on some weird shit. And you'll see things aren't exactly smooth with her and Kristen. Really up to this point either. And the thing about it is maybe that's so low effort and refreshing versus these other Housewives seasons is you go into it knowing that this isn't going to be repeated. You're going to get one experience with this group as a whole, take it or leave it, and then it's done. There isn't going to be residual drama to carry on into season 2. or season whatever. And, I like that. For one, it keeps things light. So it's literally just like a fun page turner kind of a watch. And for two, you don't have to invest a whole lot because you know that these storylines are going to totally wrap themselves up. Whatever's going on will totally wrap itself up by the end of the season. That's it. The investment is over. So it's kind of like a little tic-tac, keeps things fresh for a moment but doesn't last long. And quite frankly, there are other Housewives shows that I had to watch this morning that, arguments could be made are more quote-unquote relevant because they're the reoccurring ones and the ones that y'all are used to hearing me talk about. But I'm going to talk about Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip today in its entirety. So let's go. So in the first episode, the theme should be absolutely nothing has changed with these bitches, quote unquote. Because in literally the first 20 minutes, I clocked it. Ramona is crazy, bossing everyone around about timing, literally screaming, and has the help talking shit about her in a private scene. Gotta love those. And because they're in St. Bart's again, which, again, the location is definitely just an effort to highlight Crazy Island. It's Crazy Island, and they're bringing Kelly back. Oh, what could we be doing? What's behind all this? It's so transparent, it's almost stupid. But that being said, you do get the added benefit of hearing Luann talk French to every other French-speaking person at every chance that she gets. And the lady's making a lot of fun of her about it. It is hysterical. And this is what I'm talking about. This is why I make the comment about being with old aunts, because it's like, I am so familiar with these women. I have been watching them for so long that these women in particular, for some reason, original Roni, and yeah, it's because, one of the reasons is it was one of the first series of Housewives. So we have more ground covered and more time spent with these women than a lot of them. But by the same token, you could say the same thing for OC. And I don't feel the same way about Vicky Gunvalson that I feel about Ramona, Luann, and Sonia. I'm sorry. And maybe that's because these women in Roni got on our TVs and stayed on our TVs. Ramona didn't go anywhere. Luann, when she was in there, she was in there. Sonia, when she was in there, she was in there. We haven't been without them very much at all when it comes to anything pertaining to Roni. Whereas OC, the cast you started out with doesn't look anything really like the cast that you have now or that you even had 5 years down the road from when they started out. So, it's that longevity thing that's unique to Roni, and it makes these women feel like actual family members of mine. Family is the best thing I can say, because friends, I like all of my friends. I enjoy and voluntarily choose to spend time with my friends. Family, on the other hand, it's a little different. And that's this. These are these women that you love to death. In deep down love. But you want to fucking kill them sometimes too. And maybe a little bit too much of them is way too much. You know what I mean? So this is perfect. Just give me these bitches once a year for 10 to 15 episodes on vacation, because that's when they're at their funniest, and then that's it. That's all I need. Just a little bit of like levity and laughter around the holidays. This is perfect. Can y'all tell I'm feeling it? I mean, really, like, I'm excited. You know, you didn't know if you were going to ever get this back. And it's back. So I am down for all of the, stupid French speak from Luann. That's just part of why she's amazing to watch on TV. Amazing. So I love that it's starting this way, guys. I'm very into it. If y'all haven't started it, I highly recommend that you do, but I highly recommend you have a little bit more willpower than I seem to be able to muster, and actually wait a little while for a couple more episodes to come down your belt, because these are only, just under an hour. So like 48 to 50 minutes long, really. And they go fast, and they're very, like I said, it's like page turner TV. Like you just keep like more, and it's fast, and you go through it. And you can be over with 3 episodes like, the blink of an eye. So I recommend for those that like to watch quite a few of them back to back. I think that's pretty much everybody. Wait like a week or two so you have like 5 to put down on a weekend or something like that. Just my advice. Take it or leave it. Whatever. Anyway, I will be back in a few minutes with more Ultimate Girls Trip. I'm going to kind of recap up to what we're at right now. To kind of speed round and get you guys through it and on to some other things. Okay, so give me a break and I will be right back. Okay, so we're back with Ultimate Girls Trip in episode 1, the very first real fight, I guess you could call it that, disagreement, whatever, scene that you see is with Kristen Takeman and Dorinda Medley. And it's all surrounding comments and back and forth that the two of them have over essentially being fired, let go, whatever, former housewives. Let's just say former for the sake of this conversation, because the argument basically is a semantics argument over words used. Dorinda is making the argument that Kristen Takeman was fired and that Dorinda was just put on pause on her show. For one, essentially there is no distinction. Call it whatever you want. The worry and the fact that should be focused on is, were you on that season or not? If you're not on a season of Housewives, then you are not a housewife. Fired, canceled, reasoning, whatever. Like, we don't even hear that except from you people. You're the ones that tell us how and why and da-da-da-da-da in podcasts and in side conversations. Like, that's how we're getting this information. So if Dorinda and Kristen just came to the agreement that it is what it is, neither of us are on the show, now we are on this like supplement show, and it is what it is, and end of conversation, then we literally wouldn't even know. We can make assumptions about why they're not on the show, and already like have a pretty good handle on what and why those things happen. We are the viewers, after all. We're the ones with the opinions that drive them staying or going on the show, period. So we know what the fucking reasons are. The only people that might be in the dark because they just can't see it because it involves them and they're too close to it are the cast members. They're the ones that are confused about why they're let go, not us. Anyway, Dorinda, looks like an idiot, quite frankly. The whole crux of the issue is that she feels embarrassed, obviously, very clearly embarrassed by the fact that Kristen would allude to the fact that she was fired and not just put on pause as a housewife. But the person that's making those distinctions and continuing to carry on the conversation and to act really petty about it and like you care way more than you should ever show on camera is Dorinda. She is the one that is making herself look foolish, in other words. Full stop. There is no other way to frame this. Kristen is saying, reality, and the way that Dorinda is choosing to respond to that makes her look so small and so petty and so desperate and so worried about it. And now, that's going to be how people see you. So this new podcast that Dorinda has coming out, talking all about housewives, I mean, you're doing that because you're obsessed with this world that has basically chosen to include you in a very limited fashion now. Because why? Because a lot of reasons. And most of them go back to her behavior. No, I don't have any beef with Dorinda. I really don't. But I don't want to have petty-ass, childish conversations about this. Who the fuck cares? You're both on Ultimate Girls Trip, as Kristen points out. The playing field's pretty even when you're on the same goddamn show. Why are you guys talking about this? You talk about anything else. Talk about, Kristen Takeman and the Ashley Madison thing. We know we're going to get there. Come on, guys. We know we're going to get to the point where that's brought up. So why are we talking poolside about who is and who isn't on a show when y'all are being filmed for a Bravo show literally in the second you're having that conversation? Oh, guys. We're back. We're back with these women that just make me want to beat my brains out of my head in the best way possible. And then we get a interesting scene. Now think about all the stuff that I just said before this last segment break. Specifically in terms of Dorinda and how she responds to people that don't feed into her ego, okay? Because that's essentially, it's a total ego-driven problem that Dorinda has in terms of her inability to just kind of face facts about where she stands as it pertains to the Real Housewives of New York, which, by the way, Kristen Takeman points out, isn't really a show anymore. Certainly not with her or any of the originals on it. But, that is the ultimate problem. Dorinda's ego was probably riding on a bit of a high because she was on a network television show, post all of that stuff that has happened in her personal life. And when that was taken away from her, it was probably, a very big blow. I think that was the only thing that Dorinda had going on in her life at the time. And, pretty much still is, guys. Pretty much still is. Otherwise, she wouldn't be so absorbed in things going on in Greystone Manor if she had, anything else going on that didn't feed directly into the funnel that is Housewives. Now, all that being said, one of the very next scenes we get is a scene with Dorinda and Kelly Bensimone, where Kelly's opening up about her as a person and how she's handled things and her personality and, essentially saying the fact that she's insecure and she doesn't have all of her shit together. So she likes to align herself with powerful women that she feels like do. As a sort of, I think the point is like a protection, right? And she's telling Dorinda this
And in so doing, giving Dorinda a huge compliment, and the implication is Dorinda is, one of those people that she feels like is solid and strong and has her stuff together and is a good woman that, essentially Kelly, without knowing her exact words, Dorinda's somebody that Kelly looks up to and wants to emulate and wants to be around because she appreciates how she acts and wants to act and live the same way, essentially. Now, Dorinda doesn't smack her in the face when she says that, shocking, because, she eats it up with a fucking spoon. Once again, we have somebody who is presenting Dorinda with compliments, with adoration, boosting her ego, driving her ego. And it's so obvious. It is so obvious the turn that this conversation takes when Kelly is, saying those things in such a complimentary way. Now, I understand this is a touching scene, and if it hadn't come on the heels of what I had just talked about, I would be treating it as such, just a cute moment between two mutually respectful girlfriends that are getting to know each other better, and that's fine. But when you see Dorinda just elevating and de-escalating and elevating and then de-escalating, all based around somebody else's opinion of her, you get a real strong sense of who Dorinda is. I mean, she just eats it up what Kelly's saying. The look on her face is that of somebody who's never received a compliment in her whole life. And we know that that's not true. So she lives for this shit, right? I guess if you want to be friends with Dorinda, be an ego producer, booster, be a people pleaser, be one that gives her all the goods and tells her all the great things about herself, because anytime she is criticized, anytime there's anything even slightly negative, she turns into an asshole, like a really big asshole, and will say some really fucking low down things to you. Statements that she's made to Luann. They flash back towards it on this series, actually. Statements she made about, well, I didn't get, arrested over it. I didn't get a DWI over it. Not great. Not great. Not leaving me with a great taste in my mouth about Dorinda. Can you guys tell? I don't know. Let's move on and kind of see where this goes, but I don't like that. I don't like that. Okay, and then you have a couple of other things that are noteworthy in the first episode. I think it's the first morning they wake up and Kelly is organizing sections of, essentially it looks like swag bag type stuff. So all of these products that she brought for the girls to enjoy, Kristen Takeman makes a dig because apparently one of the products included was maybe toothpaste. And I feel like the girls probably covered the basics of packing on this trip, certainly. I mean, these are women that come 3 suitcases deep. So yeah, I have a feeling they probably brought toothpaste, all of them. But anyway, she's putting all this stuff out and you can see it brewing. Anything that's, outside the norm that somebody can dig at, they're going to, right? But then Luann has an elevated problem and perspective about this because apparently, none of us live in this world, or maybe some of you do that are listening, and if you do, more power to you. But, we don't have competition for our brands being at the forefront of lots of things that we do socially, right? So I kind of see it, maybe this is something to help better her business or whatever, and she thinks that the other housewives can take these gifts and then she'll get credit for it. That's the perspective that Luann's coming from. She kind of sees it as, a gift that does Kelly more good than it does those other girls. And I feel like that's a fucking petty jealousy thing, really. None of the other females have a problem with Kelly giving them some of those products so that they can use however they see fit and review however they see fit. The only problem that I would see maybe myself having, I don't see a lot of problem and a lot of non-upside in getting free products, as much of the other women have echoed. Even Ramona's like, yeah, sure, I love free stuff. I'll take all the free stuff I can get. Who doesn't? Really? Come on. So the only issue that I would see is if Kelly made it clear to these women that taking it essentially puts them under some sort of obligation to talk about it. It's one of those things like with any kind of gift giving, like you give a gift out and you do hope really that the person is going to go through the process of thanking you appropriately. I've had situations recently where my manners book definitely said that I needed like an actual written thank you note from a human being, and I never got one. I got a private social media thank you like 6 months to a year after the fact, for like a couple different things from one particular person. So like my point to that is you give gifts out because you give gifts out, right? You expect the best in return and that somebody is going to like treat the process of gift giving with the same respect and thoughtfulness that you did, and at least have the decency to say thank you. But you don't always get that. You don't always get what you want. So you need to just, as Kelly, give those products away if you want to give the products away, but don't assume anything after that. Don't assume a thank you. Don't assume that Leanne's going to go post about it on her social media to give you guys more credit or you more credit, blah, 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 Otherwise, take all that away from it. If she really is just giving fucking swag bags full of products, then who cares? Again, some of the things that Luann, chooses to, I guess worry about, for lack of a bigger, better word, they seem silly to me. And just like all of Dorinda's stuff seems to be ego-based, all of Luann's stuff seems to be revolved around her success and herself and her products and her personality as a business, basically, because that's what they all are. They're all personalities that are now businesses. So anyway, moving on past that, at least in terms of Luann, again, just like all of them, you slowly start to realize that not shit has changed. It hasn't been quite as long since we've seen Luann on TV with Crappy Lake and all of that stuff, and that was just fantastic. And, I do think that she's changed to a degree since a lot of her legal stuff went down. I have feelings about her continuing to drink. I'm certainly concerned, I guess. I understand that, not all people that go through these DWI issues or drinking related issues as a whole are alcoholics. The one thing doesn't automatically mean the other. You can be a person that has spells of problematic drinking. You can be a hard drinker that's not an alcoholic. You can be a binge drinker that's not necessarily an alcoholic. And it's not up to me to determine what Luann is. It's up to Luann. So I can feel however I want to feel about it. It's a dangerous game. Doesn't always work out if you really are somebody with a problem. That's all. In terms of that, we'll keep an eye on it, but I did find it a little interesting and also kind of ballsy to be somebody that went through all of that stuff publicly and to have decided pretty much declaratively and publicly that you have a problem. She went through AA to some degree on television, and then to go from that to somebody that okay, well, I went through a little period of my life, but I'm in a much better place, and now I have a cocktail every now and again, is ballsy. It's ballsy because people are going to think what they're going to think and assume what they're going to assume, like I have. And, she's aware of that. Anyone would be aware of that. So something to look out for. And just in terms of the rest of it, she's just out there trying to flirt with every Jacques and Pierre and whoever the fuck else in St. Bart's that she can. She's like a dog with a bone when it comes to that. Sometimes I've wondered if that's not maybe just shtick and she's not like this cougar woman that she presents herself to be. Maybe she thinks that's entertaining or cool for TV or something. If it's not shtick, then wow, she's like Mrs. Robinson incarnate, and she has come to play. So yeah, that's what I have for this, and then let's just keep it rolling, I guess. And then we have eggs a la Francaise for breakfast, guys. I don't know how many of you guys have watched Roni since, the very beginning, and remember that this has been brought up before by Luann, so it was no great shock, especially given the fact that, once again, we're in the same location with these same women. Eggs a la Francaise on the menu for sure. So Luann makes that, and it's so funny because I remember way back when this was made fun of, the first time she wouldn't stop saying it, and it just drove me freaking nuts because I didn't know back then what the hell that was, what she was talking about. Not something that was ever called that in my household. If anything, the special dish that we had a lot growing up that was egg related was always migas. So I know what that is, having, coming from Texas and stuff like that. That's pretty common here. But eggs a la Francaise is, in fact, just scrambled eggs. There's nothing special about them whatsoever. I mean, I guess French prepared, you could argue. Some might argue, that point. It's just about the preparation. But y'all, they're scrambled eggs, okay? And it's just funny because I literally remember being curious about that the first time this got brought up, looking it up on Google to figure out what it is, and being scrambled eggs, that's it? So imagine my amusement several years after the fact. This gets brought up again, and Sonia, TV gold that she is, actually says the words that I was dying to hear, which is, somebody needs to tell Luann that those are fucking scrambled eggs, and my mother, who's never been to France, makes them the same damn way. It was hilarious. It was just hilarious. And again, goes back to the fact that, yes, we need these women and their specific brand of sass and mouthiness on our damn TVs. So yes, 100%. Sonia, you continue to earn your spot. And that was just a great moment. Then, let's see, we definitely, it's like a repeat episode almost, because we talk about the jock thing and Johnny Depp the pirate and all that stuff from way back when. And it's just funny kind of to get that recap of things now, especially to get some some accountability and explanation from Luann of what was really going on there and why she was being so secretive. I mean, we all knew, but it's nice to hear it from the horse's mouth when there's no longer a point to fighting any of that. You know, I mean, like, she doesn't care because she's not in that relationship anymore. So all bets are off with her having to, like, keep that secret. I mean, there's no point to it. So I thought that was very interesting indeed. Then, yes, we do get to the point where we talk about Kristen Takeman and, of course, the whole scandal that's on everybody's mind as soon as they see her face. And really, that is a freaking sad state of affairs, guys. Because, I mean, we just know her for that, and she's so much more than that. She has so much more potential than that. And I don't like seeing women reduced, not only having to go through those situations, right? Being put in dickhead situations by dickhead husbands. That is completely uncalled for. Going through that scandal, and having her whole life be put on blast, for something that she didn't do anything wrong and was totally undeserved. That is not okay either. But after so many years of her not being around and kind of playing the game the right way, if you ask me, I mean, Tom Sandoval, Raquel, some of you other people that have been in scandals, please take note here. Because one of the best courses of action that you can have in certain circumstances is literally to do what she did. And that's dis-a-fucking-peer. Reprioritize. Rebrand your reality for yourself, not for the sake of public image. Again, Tom Sandoval, take note here. And I just don't like that society has even more of a grip on her in the way that, she's just not ever going to be known. Like, her name will be synonymous with that scandal forever. And that's totally her husband's fault. And it's in part society's fault for fixating on things like that and not, the fact that she's like a breathtakingly gorgeous model. Or that she's got a fucking fantastic personality. I mean, like, I don't like when women are defined by their relationships with men. Or who they're in those relationships with. We're all individual people. And I don't think... I guess probably Josh deals with that a little bit too, I'm sure, in his business dealings and things like that. I mean, he's always going to be like the Ashley Madison guy. So in that regard, I guess I'm okay with it because he gets some karma out of it too. But I feel like for Kristen to be the victim like 3 times over for different reasons, but all pertaining towards her husband's stupid behavior is not okay. And by the way, I've always thought this, and not a lot of people talk about it, but now that I saw his face again, it reminded me, that guy looks just like Frank Sinatra, does he not? Josh Takeman looks like a young old Blue Eyes. For real. That's not even to say that I find him attractive, because I don't really. Like, there's a difference for me between finding somebody attractive and just being able to acknowledge that they are attractive, if that makes any sense. His behavior, his reputation, things like that make him unattractive to me, which also, again, kind of feeds into my point, which is he should have as much of a reputational damage as her, if not way, way, way more so, because he's actually the one that did something wrong. That's really the central theme of my point, as much as I rambled on about it. That is the point. So yeah, Luann keeps kicking it. They invite these men over. That's the other thing. In episode 2, of course, the hungry ass fucking females. And I don't know why they position themselves as if they're like 30-year-old hot to trot women anymore. I think that's a little ridiculous. I think some of their behavior is a little age inappropriate and confusing. It always has been though, and maybe that's part of why we love them. I don't know. But seeing Luann as like a thirsty cougar is not really entertaining, more to me as just kind of sad. And that's not to say that she's not breathtaking either, because I was looking at her in this episode in particular, but really throughout this whole series and throughout most of her life, I feel like she just keeps looking better. Every time I see her, her body, God, that body on a woman of her age, I yearn to look like that when I am Luann's age. So please don't misunderstand. I think she's a freaking phenomenal looking woman. Again, especially for her age. More so than Ramona, that's for sure. Not that Ramona looks bad or Sonia looks bad, but I mean, I think compare and contrast of those 3 women, Luann is killing it in the jeans department, especially for her age. That's all I'll say. But anyway, they cougar out on some literal 20-somethings and, make jokes about how they're their kids' age and stuff like that. Well, don't get me started. Like, somebody arranged that situation knowing kind of the crowd you were going to be getting in. So somebody's not confused by this. Somebody wanted them there, And one of them dares to call Luann, and I guess he was probably just referring to all of the women as a whole, but these are people that barely speak a lick of English, right? And this younger man, calls Luann and some of the other women handsome. And as it was coming out of this poor dude's mouth, I'm literally thinking, like, how long before Luann, gives him a lesson, teaches him a little something, and 2 seconds later, it was a little bit delayed because I was like, really? Is she not going to correct him? Really? Is Luann somehow changed? No, guys. She makes an excessive point to correct him. She takes that little boy to school, not because she gives a fuck about what he knows or his vocabulary or this, that, or the other, or wants to impart some grand wisdom on this fucking rando dude that she will never see again in life. No, it's because she takes offense to, like, any other thing other than just, like, patented, appropriate adoration. And when this man doesn't call her, the most gorgeous woman in all of humanity, but instead calls her handsome, that will need to be corrected and fixed. And pretty much forces the words into his mouth that she's, breathtaking and gorgeous and all this stuff. Y'all will have to watch it if you haven't already to really see what goes down. And it's, an innocuous scene. It's just something a little funny like they like to do. Pretty much this whole series, just so y'all know, is just filled with typical scene after typical scene that gets run down in a very formulaic way based on where these women are and who they are. That's all you're getting is the put on that is them, basically. So this is no different, and it's no different than any of their other behavior, but I just thought it's really funny for Luann to even really care what these essentially teenagers to those women think about them. And I guess with that, moving right along to the other stuff. I'm going to take a quick break and I will be right back. Okay, we're back. So, still digging into episode 2 of this Ultimate Girls Trip. We continue on a little bit, and really from the jump, but getting with increasing levels of severity to the point where the females are noticing and making references, and even taking it so far as to watch the Scary Island episode, in the case of Dorinda, in the bathroom while getting ready, so she had a full idea and background on Kelly and the crazy that could potentially emerge in this trip. It remains to be seen a little bit, but like they said, and like I'm saying now, you're starting to see signs. Her brain just processes things, events, actions, the words people say in a very strange way. I don't like the argument with her and Kristen at all. For one thing, I like both of these people independently for very different reasons, but I would definitely err more to the side of Kristen Takeman because she makes more sense to me. I think she would make more sense to us all on a logical, rational plane. Just things that she says I agree with more than the things that Kelly says. That's pretty much the size of it. And I don't like Kelly Ben-Simone freaking out about her being a host or her having questions or her knowing more about the Housewives series as a whole than Kelly does. I mean, like Kristen points out, her friends are on all of these shows. So, she has even more of a reason to watch and be in the know of what's going on Housewives shows than any of us do. And we all still watch. And furthermore, what are you trying to say? People that watch the show are lesser than the people that are on the show? You don't watch the show that you're on enough to stay fully informed about what's going on in the other cast members' lives when you do show up to these girls' trips, so therefore you're better than the rest of us? Kind of a weird position to take when you're on the show that's giving you fame and we're all watching you basically kind of trash us. I mean, I'm trying really hard to not feel that way, but that's exactly how it comes across. And Kristen Takeman's like, yeah, I watch the shows. A lot of people do. It's kind of why you make money, Kelly. It's kind of why you're a household name. I mean, I didn't really know who the fuck you were, because I'm not in New York society until you made your way on this show. The modeling that you had done prior to in your career apparently wasn't prolific enough to make you a household name like, I don't know, let's say Cindy Crawford? Heidi Klum, if you want to go a different era? Fuck, Brooklyn Decker. I don't know. I'm trying to get in some people that are noteworthy but with different levels of fame, because I certainly don't want to allude to the fact that I think Kelly Killoren Ben-Simone and Cindy Crawford are in the same sentence at all. My point is really the opposite. If she was that whatever in her modeling career, I would know her name outside of the Housewives. I knew who Jenna Lyons was when she got cast on the damn show because I pay attention to that world, and I always have. So, no, you're not impressive as anything other than a housewife. And, again, to kind of denigrate your fan base, weird move. Don't love it. Don't love that she's picking on Kristen. And again, that's kind of a theme of hers. And they flashed back to the Scary Island stuff, and one of the things, ironically enough, that set her off there was that Bethany had swag bags. And Bethany was doing that for the purposes that they all thought that she was, for self-promotion, shameless self-promotion, and I've already stated what my feelings are on that, like pretty much who cares, but that is the fact. That is one of the reasons why Kelly and Bethany had it out in that Scary Island episode. So now you have Kelly doing the same thing on this damn ship with all of her goods and products and acting like it's not weird. She's a space cadet, y'all. She's a space cadet, and we keep realizing that. So I think I'm done realizing that, and I think I'm just going to carry forward like something ain't right in her head. Again, she processes things people say and the stuff that happens and what everyone's doing and what people's motives are in a very strange way. It's like she reaches so far past the point that like you really can't even make sense of it. So that's what we're dealing with. That's why people say she's crazy, because to me that seems a little crazy. So, I guess that's it for this segment. Kind of more or less it for this episode, but I will be back with a little bit more and then episode 3 thoughts. So stay tuned. Okay, so before we close out on this fly-by-night recap of the last 3 episodes of Ultimate Girls Trip, I'll talk a little bit about the 3rd episode. For one thing, this little helper guy that they have, I forget his name, but the little dancer guy is super cute in the first scene. They always have the best, like, butlers or assistants or whatever you want to call it in these little villas that the housewives go to. They always hit it off with some, like, super charming and adorable little person. And this is no different. I don't remember the guy's name, sorry, but he spills the coffee when Kristen Takeman's giving him a hard time about the night prior, him dancing with Luann and dance moves and things like that. He spills the coffee, and I think her comment is that, she was embarrassing him and he got flustered when thinking about the Luann dancing stuff. But I was thinking to myself, like, he's flustered by you breathtaking woman who looks like she just stepped out of a goddamn catalog. Like, she's like a catalog model, and every scene you see her in this picturesque St. Bart's looks like she's posing for a catalog. You can tell she's just been doing that for so long that I think just the way that she holds her body and the way that she moves around literally all the time is a reflection of somebody that's used to posing and like having to be fluid with their motions and stuff for the sake of the camera. I don't know a lot of models where you see them visually on screen as much just in their natural habitat day to day. We don't get a lot of that on TV for the most part. So it's interesting to see that. It's interesting to see that she looks the exact same. There's been so many beautiful women on Housewives, but Kristen Takeman is like a breathtaking specimen of a human. So I imagine that little butler guy is probably freaking out over like being acknowledged and having a conversation with her more so than reminiscing about dancing with Luann the night prior. I could be wrong. I don't know this guy's type necessarily. He probably really likes them both. I mean, they're both fantastic looking women of different age groups, shall we say. So who knows? And then we go to a scene where Sonia, this was really interesting because I upon recalling of it, I remember the scene when it first came on, and it's something from old school Roni where a long time ago when Kristen Takeman was still a housewife, but I think it was pretty early on into her tenure as a housewife, Sonia is trying to do all of the businesses like she always is, and something about the toaster oven was really heavy on the mind at this time. Nothing she was saying in terms of a vision for a business made any goddamn sense back then. I'm so glad she's talking about it less now, because it was very cringe back in the day to see her little plans and thoughts and all of that, and you just knew deep down that none of it was going to come to fruition or be anything at all. And all of her friends knew the same, and Josh Takeman knew the same too. But there was a scene where she was pitching him just utter nonsense, and his response was, "You're bananas." And it was real patronizing and dismissive and stuff at the time. I thought it was a dick move. I thought he could have done better to at least appease and entertain her for the sake of his wife. Not go out of his way to make somebody feel and look stupid. But that was clearly the intent there, which I thought was very shitty. It's pretty much put a bad taste in my mouth about that man since way prior to the scandal that happened. And it's a bad taste that's persisted. I don't necessarily believe the bullshit of this Ashley Madison story that he's selling his wife. I don't necessarily know that his wife believes it either. I think she's just saying what she's got to say for the camera and for her own sake, because she stayed in that marriage. You have to rationalize it when you stay, right? But he called Sonia bananas, and then Kristen uses that same language to discuss something about the affair with the ladies. So it just seems as if, if you're going to use the same thing as your husband does, that maybe this has been rehearsed. Maybe he's kind of feeding you what to say. It's a reach, but it looks that way, and it's not a great look based on what we know. And quite frankly, would it be that surprising if she was fed lines? As I said, I think that she has to defend him, defend the situation, lie if necessary, to preserve herself, her own pride, her family, her reputation, her family's reputation, her husband's reputation, not just personal, but business, which affects their bottom line and their lifestyle, etc. Like all things, all funnels flow back to that. So, of course, she's not going to be forthcoming with her actual, honest, raw feelings. Those are things that come from women after they leave those situations, not while they're still in them. Okay? So don't expect that, because it's not going to happen. No woman would really do that if they were going to stay. But food for thought, and I think we'll see a little bit more of these breadcrumbs play out, and I really do think that Bravo would be absolutely silly and stupid. And I've seen comments online. The pervasive opinion is that I'm not alone and that other people would like to see Kristen Takeman back on their TVs. So just putting that out there. If this isn't where that's going, then Bravo is stupid, or she just doesn't want to get involved in the mess and says no. One of the two things is going to be true, for sure. Mark my words. All right, so I'm going to keep watching here. Pause for a second, and I will be right back with more thoughts on episode 3. Oh, and then we also open, coming back to all of this, with Kristen Takeman and Luann and Kelly, but more specifically Kelly and Luann, making me feel real bad about myself for my morning routine. I have got to start getting up and doing some kind of yoga or meditation or really a combination of both, because these ladies get it, and that is the ticket for sure. Okay, then we get into the next dramatic conversation, this time beef between Luann and Kelly. I can kind of see both sides of this. I'm going to err more with Kelly on this one, to be honest, because one, I know how Luann is. She's a relentless cougar, and really, at the end of the day, it's always going to be a dude over her female friends for her. She's just that woman. It just seems that way, and it's kind of a kill or be killed competitive thing across the board. She knows she has opportunities, apparently, or at least sees it that way, to meet some hot, young, successful hockey-related guys through Kelly. I don't know who this person Kelly's dating is. Don't really care. Not going to look it up. But apparently related to hockey somehow. And that's the whole crux of apparently some sort of issue between the two of them. It's presented as, we never hang out, you don't make any effort. But really what it's about is Luann wants to do this one specific thing, knows Kelly has an in for that specific thing, i.e. this Rangers hockey, and is pissed off that she hasn't been included up to this point. Kelly sees Luann for what she is, which is kind of an opportunist when it comes to that, and feels a little used, and rightfully so. It's not about, as she says, going to go get a cup of coffee and catch up, or go get your nails done. In other words, Kelly knows that it's not unique and like a unique opportunity to foster a good friendship with one another. Like, it's all based on this, again, opportunity that Luann sees. Not anything out of the norm for Luann, so, it is what it is. These two people will figure it out, and they'll either be friends or they won't, but that's kind of, I guess, what's been keeping them apart. So you put that against a lot of the different things that I've talked about today, and things that I've said already are coming up, which is kind of a bigger dinner conversation that goes pretty bad, honestly, in the grand scheme of things, between Kristen and Kelly. And sides are taken, and Dorinda is certainly involved in that conversation as well. But, Kelly isn't going into these situations with a lot of people that have faith in her ability to act or be normal. So, and then poor Kristen, again, you go back to why fights start in the first place. It's not usually about the dinner where the fight actually takes place, right? And we're getting to that. It's about all the little miscommunications and barbs and jabs and shit that's thrown before that, right? It usually takes a while to let things bubble up. This is no different. Frickin' Kristen is like the most rational woman there, right? You can like her, you can dislike her, but she has a way of getting to the heart of an issue, right? And she has a general want to understand and a want for everyone to kind of get along and see both sides. She talks very clearly, and reminds me a lot of myself in terms of communication. So, like, always trying to go above and beyond to be, like, very specific and really think about the words and the way that you need to say something. And that can depend wildly on who you're talking to and what you're talking about. and all of these things kind of scuttle up in my brain before words come out. Not 100% of the time, but it seems like she goes through a lot of the same things, which at the end of the day means you're an analytical person and you're a good communicator. And God help them if they don't need a fucking good communicator on this trip. Every Housewives series, especially the New York women. I mean, sometimes it's like they're literally talking Greek to each other, and everyone else can get what both sides are trying to convey, but they just can't, again, land the plane. So it's endlessly irritating to me when Kelly tells Kristen at lunch that they don't need a translator and to stop it with the questions and like stop playing host. She's not trying to play host. She's trying to get to the bottom of some of these issues and speak about it plainly so that you dum-dums can like wrap your head around how somebody else might feel in any circumstance, period, and like get some fucking resolution. I don't know why this is so like such a point of contention for Kelly. No, we don't need a translator. Bitch, you of anybody does. You are talking utter nonsense every time you try to make a point. Constantly contradicting yourself. I mean, I could just go on and on and on and on and on. And it's not even really her fault. It's just like the cards that we're all dealt, certain people excel at certain things. Kristen excels, it seems to me, at making rational common sense and trying to get everybody else on board. And I understand why she's frustrated at every turn. Like, you're talking to your crazy aunts. Like, when this isn't going anywhere productive, guys, it will make for good TV. That's it. Like, don't expect anyone to really get it or change or act any differently at the end of the day here, because that is what I'm wanting, and I'm slowly starting to realize that even though, we haven't seen some of these people in a long time, they're still literally exactly the same. All the things that drove me crazy before drive me crazy now. It's just a different setting. So pretty much after the lunch, it becomes pretty clear that Kelly is going pretty much, I wouldn't say full-blown Scary Island. That remains to be seen. It hasn't gotten to that level yet. But certainly that lunch that I just spoke about was pretty close and very familiar. Her behavior is the same, nonsensical. I'm just glad that once again we have people around that see it for what it is. Because then, no sooner do you have that, Sonia takes Kelly away. Pretty great call, honestly, because Sonia is the kookiest one of all of them that can kind of like almost sink down in the muck with her a little bit and be, match her crazy in that moment and hopefully kind of extinguish some of those flames. Whereas everyone else that's a little bit more rationally minded, Dorinda, Luann, Kristen Takeman, and Ramona, literally everybody else goes off their own separate way to the next series of events that we have to deal with on this trip. It starts thundering. Good God. Producers must have absolutely loved that. You just can't plan for that shit. And it's just so perfect and so fitting because it's literally like that is the vibe. You can feel the storm brewing and everyone's kind of talking about Kelly. I mean, like, It's different because this is just a trip cast. This isn't like your full blown permanent, nothing's permanent in Housewives, but like this isn't like your set people in your city that you're castmates with. Like, this is a temporary situation. So the investment, the stakes, all of that stuff are not really all of that high. But she does stand to ruin the vacation with this garbage. And it's nice to see people rally behind stuff that makes fucking sense. Ramona makes a point to say lots of really insightful and supportive things to Kristen, like basically saying she doesn't know what else to say. She's confused about maybe how she feels or something. So instead, she kind of gaslights and switches things around and confuses the narrative. And that's so true of Kelly. And very, like I said, very insightful of Ramona. Say what you will about Ramona. I like to give her a hard time, but when we talk about hate to watch her, or, love, hate to watch her, she's more of a love-hate for me. It's not full-blown hate to the point where it's annoying to me yet. I'm sorry. Even after all of these years, it's not. I know that she says a lot of really, really, really ridiculous and out of line things. And unfortunately, it seems as if, that may have permanently damaged her. This latest news may have permanently damaged her reputation. She's certainly suffering some personal consequences as it pertains to that. Bravo, who knows what her future is on Bravo? It's probably nothing, to be honest. I don't think they're going to pull at that thread really probably ever again, unless maybe some very substantial time has passed. Douglas Elliman, where she had that job, they have completely pulled her. She was on the website 1 second, and then like literally in the blink of an eye was completely not even like, didn't have a page, wasn't a listed agent there, nothing. And that would have opened up all the doors in the world for her. Like she didn't want for money before, but she really wouldn't have wanted for money if she would have started with a firm like that, with the connections that she has and the name that she has already, fame that she has already, notoriety that she has already. Like all of that was pretty much wiped overnight. So yes, I feel bad for Ramona. I also feel bad. Look, guys, I am not going to get political on here. You can pretty much guarantee of that. But I might, because sometimes I just can't help myself, kind of indicate for you in a roundabout way of where I stand on certain things. And I think cancel culture is fucking ridiculous. I will say that blatantly and just 100% with conviction. I think it is ruining our country. I think that there are different, better, and more civilized ways for people to suffer consequences for their actions. And I think that the legal system is a really great way to get that done. If, and only if, you are literally innocent before you're proven guilty. Now, that doesn't seem to be the case in today's world in a lot of different examples that I could point to. That being said, I don't have strong opinions about Ramona's statements one way or another. I think that they were in extremely poor taste. Do I think she has made a lot of statements, perhaps even made her fame on the fact that she's made, some weird statements in poor taste? Yeah. It's part of actually, like I said, one of the reasons that she's become popular or famous is because she says things without thinking about them. And sometimes they're hilarious, and sometimes they're really fucking out of line. Again, she's suffering the consequences of her own actions. Her future on Bravo, I don't really care. I could take her or leave her. I like her when she's around, but I don't really think about her too much when she's gone, type thing. All that being said, I do feel badly that I know that the public opinion or knowledge is that she's a Donald Trump supporter. And I feel like a lot of people have pigeonholed her as this, that, or the other based on that limited bit of information. And I think that's one of the reasons that she has been dragged through the mud as much as she has. And I don't think that that's right. So moving on. And then we immediately flash to, well, not immediately, but pretty much right after that, we get to one of those, kind of game things that they like to do at the dinner table. And Ramona's talking about misconceptions of her. She kind of fucks up her wording there, which makes her sound stupid, but whatever. She talks about the misconception of her, not being a caring, sensitive person, her whole shtick, basically, her entire personality, and how she can come across hard and selfish and blah, blah, blah. And then you get the ladies' take on it, and Dorinda wins the prize for sure. She said, if you need a number from Dorinda, here, it's right here. And she's like, wow, that was quick. Like, quick to action, quick to help, quick to solutions. And she said, maybe a little bit rude. We don't need to go there. Let's stay on the positive. So, that says it all. These women, you got to really think about it. As insufferable as Ramona has been in the past, all of these women are still friendly with her. And not just friendly for the sake of the show, because they don't have to be. People, historically speaking, have had falling out. Like, there was always one housewife on Roni that had some kind of serious falling out with Ramona. She was not in good with all of the women all of the time, but they've all come back around full circle. And she still has a good relationship with her husband, and she still has a good relationship with her daughter. Obviously, they're like attached at the freaking hip. And these women talk about her in a self-deprecating way, in a way that you can tell that there's a sincere friendship or familial bond there. Whether they talk every day or not, whether these people have had Ramona's back in this new situation that she finds herself, that would be interesting to know. My guess is, I know Luann's a no. I don't know about Sonia, but I know Luann is a no. She's made statements to the effect that she has not reached out to Ramona. She's basically said, essentially because she doesn't know what to say. So I do kind of feel her there, because I don't think any of us would really know what to say. They then continue the misconception conversation with Kelly, of course, because, let us get through one single instance of any conversation on the planet goddamn Earth without hearing what Kelly Kalorn Ben Simone thinks and feels about it. So let's hear her opinion and her perspective, because we haven't quite heard from her enough in the last 3 episodes. If you can't tell, I'm being tremendously facetious. But she says the common misconception of hers, which Sonia interrupts her to say, is that you're crazy. No. That's not what she was going with. Her common misconception of her is how crazy rich she is. That's what she thinks everyone's getting wrong. Not that she's a fucking certified nut job. No. That she has a money tree, guys. That's the big concern with Kelly. And then we get to what we're really trying to get to here, which is the conversation all surrounding the Ashley Madison thing with Kristen Takeman's husband. Funny though that the person that initially brings this conversation to the forefront at dinner is Sonia Morgan. Sonia, who obviously has some leftover feelings about Josh. Specifically, we covered that. That's why, just that and just bringing up old shit, wanting to get to the bottom of things for the sake of TV, because Sonia's been around for a long time and kind of knows what needs to be done. But either here or there, we end up having this conversation. And the thing that gets me about any of it is the entitlement that these women seem to have, and this is such a theme across all of these shows. It's certainly showing its face in Beverly Hills with Kyle and Mauricio this season. The entitlement women seem to feel they have towards the truth. And I don't know if they're like trying to act as go-betweens between, what they know that the general public and ratings and stuff indicate that we want to see, and things that they know that are being kept, not talked about for the sake of somebody's privacy or feelings or whatever. Like, Sonia obviously knows that the general public that's watching the show is aware of the story just as much as she is, and probably wants to hear a little bit about it. We're curious. Sonia's curious. I get all that. But this is a scandal that's involving a family, a person's life, a real human being with a real marriage, a real family, and real feelings. So can we maybe do a little bit of a better job of seeming, at least just seeming, like you're asking out of genuine care and concern for Kristen? Because it never feels that way on TV. It feels like they are doing the exact opposite. They are bringing stuff to the forefront that's messy and shady and gossipy. And they're putting you on the spot and making you feel like shit and making you feel like you have to answer for one of, if not the most fucked up thing that's ever happened to you. And Kristen and Sonia are not good friends. That is very apparent. There's no genuine motive and friendship behind this. So it feels ick, and I don't like watching it anymore. I mean, how much of that do we really need to know? Everyone already has an opinion about exactly what happened there and whether or not she knew, or didn't know. We all have a line, we all have an opinion about this. And it's old as fuck news. On the one hand, I get it because I watch TV, and a lot of what we watch is for the drama and the storylines and the intrigue and all of that. On the other hand, I think about how these people are real people and how they always end up going to the defensive. Like, why do you think I have to talk about this with you? Robin Dixon, another perfect example of this. Her friends are making her feel like a shitty fucking friend. A shitty friend for not, just absolutely laying her whole marriage on the table for them to gossip over, examine, spread around, be malicious about, you name it. And that is not friendship. The difference here is I don't really think Sonia and Kristen are acting like they're BFF. There are no impressions given that they have hung out a whole bunch prior to this or since they were on the cast together. The impression is given that they've probably barely seen each other, barely spoken, if at all. So in a way, this is kind of like a catch-up thing, but it's a gotcha moment for Sonia, and I don't like it. And, it's done through Sonia under the guise of, so tell us, like, you obviously went through a lot. We care. We need to know. Da 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 da. So, out of concern, please let us know. Which, Kristen can see through. Kirsten. Have I been saying that wrong the whole time? And probably forever. Either way. um, is immediately put on the defensive about it. Anyone would be. She's gonna obviously care more and have more of a stake in her fucking marriage than this conversation or her relationship with Sonia Morgan. So that goes without saying. She then says her truth is he actually didn't cheat on her. That it was like a gag that he had done with his buddies. I think we've heard this story before. Sounds good. I don't care. I'm not the one that has to live with that. Like those looming questions from potentially a lie that your husband's telling you that doesn't quite check all the boxes in terms of explaining why somebody would put you through that supposedly loves you. These are things that she has to battle with on her own. And I'm sure if she's very honest with herself, and if we're anything alike, that probably not a day goes by where she doesn't think about that. This whole scenario. Maybe even a couple times a day. Maybe she obsesses about it still to this day far more than we will ever realize or know. And I feel like some grace can be given based on that, because we've all been in some kind of situation that was similar. I'm not saying infidelity even. A situation that rocked us to our core and took away safety that we once thought we had, took away trust in an important person in our lives, totally dismantled our family. Whatever the story is, we have all been dealt a shitty romantic card or a shitty familial story card, and it sucks. So can we all just, again, treat each other with kindness, approach things with a genuineness, not curiosity, so you can just go, share your opinions with the world about somebody else's drama. It's gross. It's gross. But she says her truth is he didn't cheat on her. Her truth. I don't like this language. I think it's very specific, and you're left wondering what that means. I mean, you kind of know what it means because it's obvious what it means, but like, what does that really mean? Does that mean you pretty much know that he did cheat on you, so your truth is that he did? Like, what does that mean? Again, not for me to figure out. And I don't understand what the 75 transactions is about. I guess I would have to go back and do some digging on his specific story. I assume that was part of what was outed, is that he had like, I don't even know what a transaction is on OnlyFans, on Ashley Madison. Like, if you're paying to play, or if you have to pay per date. I wasn't under the impression it was that. I thought it was like just facilitating like a meetup between two married people. Kind of like, Adult Friend Finder or any of those ones where it's like, it's just you match with people. You're not paying for anything other than maybe a membership. Maybe a membership. I don't know what 75 transactions is about. That seems like a lot for somebody who was doing this, as a gag or an accident or what the fuck ever. I don't buy it. It's very clear that the other women don't buy it. And that matters not, really, at the end of the day. This is Kristen's life. It's interesting that that's being held against her in a shady way. They're being shady about it. Like, how could you not know? Come on, you know, you just don't care. Like, and I don't know why that's important to get out of Kristen, that she knows, but she's turning the other cheek. Like, that's what they want her to say. And then we have Kelly jumping on because apparently Kelly has a problem with women, once again, who make up their own minds as to whether or not they want to stay married after cheating scandals. So she thinks that basically I'm not directly quoting her, but she thinks you're, weak and kind of a piece of trash if you choose to stay with your husband as Kristen did. Like, that, that's the easy route to take, and that maybe it all has to do with money. That's certainly what she was implying, because, wouldn't Kelly's life have been so much easier if she had just turned the other cheek too? Basically, that's the crux of this. That's the implication. Dorinda jumps her ass, which I thought was great. I do think Dorinda sees things pretty well most of the time, and sometimes even when she's in that shit-faced stupor, she can still say some things that are surprisingly on point. They might not all slurred together, but like surprisingly on point. So I do like when Dorinda comes in the clutch and offers like, no, like, no, we're not going to do that. It was her choice. It doesn't have anything to do with you, Kelly. Don't fucking shame her. And, she even admits to the fact that she's been spending some time in the bathroom watching Scary Island. And it's just funny that somebody who's walked around most of her life with the conception or misconception, to hear her say it, that she's crazy, be making all of these blanketed assumptions with everybody else. It's like, it's karma at this point. Everyone that calls you crazy is just karma for you essentially implying that Kristen Takeman is weak. It's none of your business. Why do you care? This is not personal to you. And it just kind of goes on and on like that for really the rest of the episode. That's how this ends, is more or less them kind of just fighting and screaming and talking over each other at dinner and trying to convey points. And really, just kind of beat a dead horse, because decisions have already been made. Affairs have already happened. Actions and repercussions and reactions have already all played themselves out. And guess what, Kelly? It didn't have a bitch-ass thing to do with you. Ever. And it still doesn't. So, I guess with that, I pretty much kind of covered all of the hot button stuff that's happened in episodes 1, 2, and 3 of Ultimate Girls Trip. I'm probably not going to do it this way again. Maybe not. I'm on the fence. Let's put it that way. It depends on how this week goes, and I'm going to kind of back burner it in comparison to some of the other things that will be airing. Winter House I'm going to talk about. I definitely need to catch up on some Southern Charm talk, and of course some of the other Housewives franchises that'll be coming on today and tomorrow, because I'm finishing this up today, which is Thursday the 20th of December. So I'm kind of going to try and jam it in. Hopefully you guys will be tuning in and catching up maybe over some holiday breaks that you might have. So I'll try to keep engaging as much as I can. I just thought that since I was binging these, it might be worthy of a binge-worthy episode. These aren't particularly meaty franchises in terms of what all's going on, and there's not a lot that we have to invest in because these casts are not together forever. So it is a little trip, and it's kind of nice to just go through the highlights real quick. Essentially, if you've listened to the last several minutes of me talking about episodes 1, 2, and 3, you have really, aside from, the pretty St. Bart's scenery and the beautiful restaurants and the nice outfits that they all wear, you've pretty much seen the episode. Those are all the main or finer points of everything that's gone on. It's mostly, honestly, been a lot, of course, as we all knew, just based on the scandal about Kristen, and a lot about Kelly. A lot about Kelly, because it doesn't appear that anything has changed, at least in terms of her ability to interact with these ladies, because that is just, it's exactly the same as I've always seen. So with that, I'm closing out, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm sorry if this episode was a little fragmented and all over the place. I was literally commenting as I was watching in real time and putting it all together. So hopefully you enjoy it, and tune back in real soon.